This is Naoki Yoshida,
This is Fern Hall.
and you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamers Games Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm FusionX. Joining me today, we've got a full house. We've got Zenidra, we've got Aldino, and we've got Rook.
Hello.
So today we are going to talk about our initial thoughts for patch 5.25. And we are also going to go over our recent interview with Naoki Yoshida and Yusuke Mogi. But first, we're going to have to throw just a little bit of depressing things in here. I know everybody's probably sick of hearing about this kind of stuff, but it is important.
It's news.
It is news. A couple days ago, Naoki Yoshida posted up on the Lodestone and the forums talking about the impact of COVID-19 on the service and development of Final Fantasy XIV. He says, first and foremost, all of you who have been affected by the worldwide spread of the novel coronavirus, in any capacity, have my deepest sympathies, and I wish those who have taken ill a quick recovery. Here in Tokyo, where the 14 team is located, a state of emergency has been declared, and we have been ordered to take preventative measures to curb further spread of the virus. This, of course, raises questions as to the effects on game service and patch development, so I'd like to take the opportunity to address those concerns. As of patch 5.25, as patch 5.25 was largely completed during this cycle, we were able to implement the finishing touches and release it on schedule. However, it was by a narrow margin that we did so. Only some staff had begun to work from home prior to the release of patch 5.25, while more were asked to stay home and self-isolate regardless. The patch was finished by those individuals who had the ability to work remotely or to come to the office safely. 14 relies heavily on our development and QA partners across the world, and at this point, we must accept that the situation will significantly impact our development schedule. The reasons for this are delayed delivery of graphical assets due to the lockdown of cities in East Asia, North America, and Europe, delayed voice recording due to lockdown of cities in Europe, delays to development tasks performed by Tokyo staff due to work from home or shelter-in-place limitations, and production and QA teams operating well below normal capacity due to work from home and shelter-in-place limitations. I mean, you guys got to remember, too, I mean, they do stuff all around the globe for this game. They've got, we talked a little bit the last couple of weeks with, support stuff shutting down in NA and EU. They do a lot of their voice recording in Europe. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this game, and it's all over. So anything anywhere is going to have an impact.
Just like the virus.
Yoshida goes on to say, though it is clear that patch 5.3, which was planned for mid-June, will be delayed because of the above, we are at this time undecided as to whether it will be feasible to limit the delay to 2 or 3 weeks, or if it will be closer to a month. We are terribly sorry for the disappointment this may cause our players, but as we know, you look forward to new patches. However, it is also important to prioritize the physical and mental health of our development team, without whom we would never be able to release the quality updates and features that you expect from 14. So we ask for your understanding as we adjust our schedule in accordance with the situation. Regarding the operation of our servers, we will now be maintaining them from home, myself included. While GM support and replies from the support desk may take longer than usual, you can rest assured that each world will be running as usual, allowing everyone to continue playing. In some cases, we may have difficulty implementing bug fixes or maintenance for issues that occur, and if this happens, we will post a notification of the issue and implement the fix as soon as we are able, so we ask for your patience in the meantime. Finally, though this may seem somewhat superfluous, I'd like you to know that myself, the development team, and the production team are doing fine at present. We're currently testing remote work environments and applications so that we can resume patch development on all fronts. While many of us worldwide remain in our homes, we should remember to let joy and laughter fill them, because at times like these, it's especially important to find happiness where you can. I certainly hope that in delving into parts of 14 that you have yet to try, battles to be won, new jobs with which to hone your skills, connecting with in-game friends, and having fun together, your days will seem a little brighter. It's not a bad time to tell people about the free trial, if I do say so myself. We do still plan to host live letters if at all possible, and once things have settled down, I promise you'll find me online. So see you in Eorzea. So, I don't think it's anything surprising for anybody. But I do appreciate that they came out and kind of gave us a little bit of an update about this. Earlier this week, Blizzard had done something kind of similar regarding BlizzCon, where they're saying, hey, this could go longer, it could not. we will let you guys know as soon as we know. It would have been nice to hear something about FanFest from Square in that same kind of vein, but
they probably have no idea at this point.
Right?
Yeah,
it's
thankfully it's so far off. Like, that's the thing, right? You know, like right now, pretty much all the conventions that are being actively canceled are falling like early summer or that like middle of the year season. So like FanFest is just far enough out that I feel like we probably won't hear anything for another month, 2 months, pending what happens with COVID, you know?
Yep. I would expect by June, because usually around E3 timing is when we get more details and stuff about FanFest and ticket sales and stuff like that. So we also know that the ESA isn't planning on a digital E3 this year. So who knows what the hell is going to happen in June. Yeah, who knows.
We were talking about KuboCon, you know, like there's a venue that you have to deal with. So they're probably like waiting until like 6 months before exactly, and then reevaluating, then, you know, 5, 4, 3, there's probably a countdown. There's probably a time where they can't be refunded. Like, there's so much.
I'm sure. Yeah, I have no doubt that internally they have a date that's like, if we don't know by then, we're just gonna call it, because what can you do? Yeah, I mean, obviously,
infect billions of people with COVID. That's what you can do.
I mean, yes. So obviously we'll keep everybody posted. You know, as soon as we hear stuff, we'll let people know. We'll do retweets and everything like that. But fingers crossed. I mean, it sucks, right? Because this year, I mean, me and my wife were like, oh, like we're gonna go to Disney, and then we're gonna go to FanFest, and hey, you know what a bank account, whatever. Maybe we'll do like Japanese FanFest too. Let's just go all out, and let's just have a fun end of the year. May not be doing that anymore. So
your bank account was like, oh no.
Right. It's
It was nice to get this little tidbit at the end about, I think, finding happiness in the areas that we can also like share together. And it's been amazing to me because I think that especially MMOs have just really, really shown during all of this. And the amount of people that I know that are coming together in game, in any of the games that they play, to just really hang out and laugh and introduce new players to the game. It's been so amazing. So like, no joke what he's saying about the free trial or meeting up to try new things or try new content or get outside of your comfort zone or try a new game. I think it's such a good time for that. And I thought it was really kind of sweet for him to like put this little personal note on the end for all the player base.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting and I guess nice to know that they were so close to the end of the patch we just got, and they went ahead and pushed it out because they knew that in the future probably they were going to get slowed down. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this last week about how, you know, kind of how ahead they usually are in their workflow. So I think they kind of saw this coming and they're like, you know what, we have it to a point where we can push it out. Maybe there's a few bugs or a few little things here and there. We can deal with that, you know, from a work and home environment. And so they were able to get it out, which is nice. It's also interesting too, because I feel like a lot of people were expecting the patch earlier than we got it. So I don't know if that right. Am I wrong in that? I feel like we were expecting it earlier.
Maybe
by a week or two, or a week
by like
or
a
two,
week.
Yeah. I think by timelines.
I mean, it still felt like it was not, you know, like a really arduous delayed release or anything. I was surprised that we got it because with all the stuff going on, I figured, oh man, if, you know, customer support is down and all this other stuff is down right now, then who knows? But yeah, it didn't feel like it was too delayed, but maybe by like a week.
Yeah.
It does kind of explain the shortness a little bit as well. It did feel like an especially compact.
I think that's by design. I mean, I don't think that they could have predicted that the stuff is going to happen. And we'll get into this a little bit later. Yeah. But I think it's definitely by design. And I think they couldn't anticipate the potential delay between this and the next patch. And it's just, you know, timing. It is what it is.
Okay. Fair.
Speaking of delays, The Art of Reflection, History's Forsaken, the first Shadowbringers art book has been delayed. Originally it was supposed to come out about a month from now. It has been pushed back right now to July 28th. That might change too. Who knows?
A big jump.
Yeah. There's a new Primals album that's out today. as well. It's got 4 tracks on it. As far as I know, that's still launching today. I don't know how orders are going to work if you guys ordered it online with the way shipping and stuff is going right now. I don't know if it'll be available digitally. I hope so. It's only 4 tracks.
Yeah,
like,
so.
just throw them up on iTunes or something. Square, come on.
Yeah, I saw that Titania was on it, and I was like, I need to have it now.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like, so it's because I looked at it, I'm like, oh, new primals. Then I saw it's 4 tracks. I'm like, oh, and it's the Ruby Weapon track, which is really just the Ultima Weapon arrangement from the primals. It's the Shadowbringers boss fight music, like the dungeon boss fight, not like the Hades boss fight. And then there's Leviathan from Eden, and then Titania. So I love that Titania track. Listening to the sample they got.
I haven't heard it yet, but the idea of the Primals doing a cover of that song really delights me.
Oh, it's so great! It's so great. If you if you can track down the website for it, there's some previews of each of the tracks. So
I know as well that they have put up the new Zone music on YouTube. Somebody's put the new Zone music up on YouTube.
Oh, there's always somebody putting the new stuff up on YouTube. Yeah.
If you're looking for some jams and you get the primals, but you've also been super into the new Zone or the new starter.
I have got into that new Zone just to AFK.
It's so good.
Have the track run a little bit. Yeah. It's really good. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, but first, we've got our interview with Naoki Yoshida and Yusuke Mogi. So about a little over a month ago, there was PAX East in Boston. Originally, there was a whole bunch of stuff for Final Fantasy Online titles planned. There were going to be interviews, there were going to be fan gatherings, and things happened, and none of that happened. So luckily, we were able to send off our questions to the teams. So we have both our 14 interview. We also have our 11 interview as well that's posted if that's something you're interested in. And we'll talk just a little bit from that as well here.
They worked from home on our interviews.
Yeah, they did.
So our first question, if you listen to the show, you know that we have had words said about fellowships. And so I like how Rook is just kind of like,
look, I have the fellowship face. It's a very specific
fellowship face
that I have. And
we each have our thing. If we say markers,
there you go. So we had asked, currently in the game, we have several different types of social tools, free companies, link shells, and now fellowships. What led to creating fellowships as a separate system versus integrating those features into free companies or link shells? Obviously, this is something that we keep talking about whenever we talk about fellowships, right? We have all these different social channels. Why not just put it into like one thing? So Yoshida says, fellowships serve as a sort of roleplay mechanism, and we implemented it as a system without limitations on how it should be used so that players can casually come together as a group. The team wanted to make
roleplay.
I was thinking that, but yeah, there's going to be people now, right? The team wanted to make it possible for players to create different community groups, such as one for people that love TV dramas, or for people that love novels, or another for people that live in the same region. And we wanted to achieve this without including a chat function. If we had integrated fellowships with the pre-existing link shell or free company systems, it would have inevitably been impacted by these existing communities. We intentionally designed the fellowship in a way to separate it from the other two and to let it grow as a unique system.
I wonder if it's more successful in other regions.
Yeah, maybe
I would be curious about this too, right? I mean, and because it is a Japanese game, right? Yes, it's in a global market, but it is a Japanese game, and so that's definitely, the idea of like message boards and stuff like that. I think that's something that's a little more prevalent in Japanese society. It's interesting that they say roleplay mechanism, but then they talk about TV dramas.
I know. It's so interesting to me because on one hand, hearing this response from him, I understand the impulse to want to have something that is almost like a fresh start, right? So let's shake up the existing social communities and let's allow people to connect in a way that might be outside of just the pre-existing groups, like he says, you know, free company systems, things like that. Let's just get people out of that so they don't feel like, you know, all of your allegiance has to be in one place. You can go socialize with other people and kind of expand, right? But at the same time, the answer is really, it feels so discordant in some way because each thing doesn't totally seem to line up. Like, you know, it's going to be a role play mechanism, but we want to talk about like loving novels, but also we want to do this without it being actually a chat system. But also
it's like, weird, right? Because
we see that.
Yeah, we wanted to achieve this without including a chat function. Okay. Like he likes the idea of people being able to say, I'm in a group, and for one person to throw a message in there every like week or something. Like, I don't, again, maybe it's a regional thing. Again, we here at Aetheryte Radio don't see the point. And so that's why we asked about it.
Yeah, I think it's just definitely a different design mentality than what we think. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would be so interested, like we were saying, to hear about, you know, if it's really impacted social groups in like the Japan community or like the Japan servers and things like that. But it is really strange because to me it seems like you would want to consolidate and expand and impact. I mean, exactly the opposite of what he says. You want to impact existing communities to enable them to socialize, you know, more. But as it is, I mean, here, at least in NA, I really don't know of anybody that actively uses it. But I mean, if you do, feel free to write in and let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Because to me, it's like, you know, back in the day when your guild had a website and there was a forum that no one went to.
Yeah.
That's fellowships, but you put them in the game. Why would you do this to me? Like, what is it for? I also find it interesting that Yoshida says we implemented it as a system without limitations on how it should be used.
Launched with no search feature. You have to re-up recruitment. Those are very terrible limitations. Is he talking about the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah,
but link shells aren't locked in topic-wise either, so I don't know.
Yeah, but there is a number that you can have, whereas you can't. Wait, is there a limit on that? How many of these you can have? I don't remember. I don't use them.
Great question. Right. See, who knows?
I mean, it feels incredibly limiting to me. Like, even with the forum usage that there is, I mean, there's a cap on how many messages you can even have in there. And like, I mean, it feels very restrictive. So, I mean, especially when people are already using Discord to basically fulfill this functionality, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have an interest in being a part of a GLBT Final Fantasy group, so I'm going to go do that. I have an interest in housing, so I'm going to go find a Discord for that. So it does seem strange to, like, for me personally, and like, I absolutely respect the response, and you know, we don't know everything they decided on this, but it does feel really strange not to use it as a way to help people already consolidate their social systems in game for people who may not be using those outside resources, but instead kind of creating something that I think most people won't use because they already have other things that are more efficient to use.
Square, unfortunately, has a pretty long history of doing that kind of thing, right? They see, oh, people are using third-party guild websites or, you know, all these kinds of things. We should implement our own, but then no one uses them because they're already using something else. Right. And they don't add enough unique features to make it worthwhile. So, you know, it's like we have, you know, we used to have, there's like link shell forums or free company little message boards right on the lodestone, but you can't use some kind of calendar to look at, you know, scheduled events in game or anything like that. Just little things like that. And then you get the companion app, and that's also like,
if they had said that this was in like an alpha or a beta, hey, we're releasing this is here, we do want it to grow into a unique system, tell us what we need, tell us what features we need. Now, if they had presented it that way, like if that was this answer, yeah, we started it and we know it's not as good, but this is what we want it to be, tell us how to make it that way, that would make a lot of sense. Because what do you need? Because you do have Discord, you do have guild websites, if you still do. What do you need? You know, like that would have been pretty awesome. That would have been a cool beta way, but it feels like this is all we're ever gonna get. You know,
I feel like Fellowships is a loaf of bread that should have stayed in the oven a little longer, right? I mean, like just the fact that it launched without search, right, is like,
Yes.
what? Like, why would you do that?
It's very strange.
Anyway.
No, I do see in the chat a good counterpoint.
yeah.
Silent says that they use it for recruitment purposes for FCs. So you can recruit to the FC directly, or you can even recruit for like specific events. All you have to do is leave it up and people join like a week before, which could, I mean, hey, if people are getting good recruitment from that, I mean, that could totally be a way to do it versus having to like shout out in zones. But again, it feels strange because that feels like a very specific way to use it. And it almost feels like then it should have been labeled as a recruitment tool if that was going to be like its main functionality.
You know, in addition, so we actually did have 2 questions that got cut from the interview, I think probably just for time. One of them is we had actually had people write in and ask about trying to find link shells and what the best way is to find a link shell or find a free company. And so we had asked Yoshida if there were plans to make that easier. You know, we talked a little bit about the NPC in 11 that can distribute link shells and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get an answer for that. The other question was asking why they're so set on neighborhoods for housing and why we can't just have instance housing. That got cut as well.
Yeah.
So I tried, guys. I tried so hard. I tried to ask about 11 mobile. I tried.
Yeah.
I really did.
Well, still, I mean, this is an interesting response to a system that we've had a lot of questions about. I mean, personally here, right? And it is something that I don't think is going to impact most players on the day-to-day, whether you use it or don't use it. I mean, it's not something that's like game-breaking in any way, shape, or form, but it is an interesting thing looking forward. And as we all kind of, especially now while we're at home, look at socializing in the game and connecting to other players.
Definitely.
I'm curious to see if people try it out maybe here in the next few weeks and you want to give us thoughts or feedback on, you know, if you actually found a good group through it or if you feel like it has good functionality, because maybe I'll try myself and we can sort of see if it is a good tool or maybe at some point they will kind of merge them or offer more with it. Who knows?
Yeah. Our next question, this is something that's been brought up in a lot of circles. There's been a lot of discussion about mods and stuff in the last few months. And so we said that there's been a lot of talk recently in the community about mods, specifically those that can change the appearance of other players without consent. Some players are afraid that modders could impersonate or target other players on social media in an effort to get them banned. And so we asked, people have been curious about the idea of some kind of way to do a file integrity check on clients so that, you know, this can't happen. And so we asked if that is even feasible. Yoshida says that since data packets are distributed equally to all players, it's difficult for us to identify what kinds of tools are being used and how data is being handled on players' personal computers. That said, manipulating or secretly prying into others' data violates the game's terms, so we will inflict penalties if we see issues. After doing investigations, rest assured that we do thorough investigations so as to not falsely accuse anyone. So, if anybody was worried about that, there you go.
It's not just going to be a knee-jerk ban. It's going to be, we're going to look into it. You're going to know probably that we're looking into it. And, you know, we'll
there were I know, I just looking on Twitter when that stuff started kind of popping up a little bit. There were a lot of people really worried about that. So, you can sleep a little easier now. Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah. With the streamlining of the 2.0 MSQ, will there be any changes to the main scenario roulette dungeons, Castor Meridianum, and the Praetorium? Right, they're consolidating a lot of stuff for New Game Plus. If that would be a good time to do it, if they wanted to do it, no. We don't have plans on making any changes at the moment. We would like to revisit the overall design of dungeons sometime in the future, but we haven't had time to get to it yet. So, I'm curious if he's talking about these dungeons or dungeons overall.
Yes.
You could kind of interpret it both ways, right?
Yeah. I'm really, honestly, this is a very, I mean, it's a short answer, short question, but it was something that I had been thinking about a ton. And I'm glad that, you know, they at least responded to it because we don't really know yet exactly how much of an overhaul this base game reworking is going to be as we get into like New Game Plus for Realm Reborn and trying to like get people through that story. And these 2 dungeons have been long contested within like the entire game with a lot of the MSQ ruling and different things. So, I mean, it seems like they're at least on their radar. I feel like things are pretty good. I don't know how about everybody else feels, but I feel like things are pretty good with them now with the roulette. And I mean,
it's
even with the
definitely
lost
like
cutscenes.
a list of priorities, right? I mean, right now, a lot of people are happy with the amount of XP that they give, right? Because they give a bunch of XP.
Yeah.
I'll sit through the movie while I watch a different movie.
Right. And so for a lot of people, that's fine. But it is one of those things that's like kind of grandfathered in, right? There's like that. There's the whole scholar summoner thing.
If you don't have time, though, you still want the XP. It's like, I guess I can't do this. I don't have the time. So it's kind of like...
You have to just grind 2 regular dungeons and get half of the XP. So there you go.
Things, and
but
my thing is summoner scholar. Thank you. that I could rant on for an hour. Yep.
But I am curious, like you said, Fusion, whether or not this is a direct reference to just these 2. You know, because we talked, I think, in past weeks about the possibility of even like reworking these dungeons to.
We've talked about scalable dungeons or trust dungeons.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot, but
so many things.
I'm curious what they would do if we assume that the comments about revisiting the overall design of dungeons is something applicable to all dungeons versus just these 2. I'm curious what they would do to change the dungeon system, you know? I mean, what more could we do to it unless we start doing something almost like mythic scaling, or, you know, like how would there be, like, I don't know, how do you change this
became
formula?
Brian just now.
You know, I think any kind of so he says overall design of dungeons, right? I think really, you know, and this is something, again, we've talked about, Brian's been an advocate for this for a while, is the idea of scaling dungeons. And for me, it's not even necessarily scaling dungeons. It's the idea of I shouldn't have to change my rotation to a crappy like 3-button rotation if I do like a level 20 dungeon, right? Like I don't even like, what are these abilities anymore? Like traits upgrade things. That's not an icon I recognize at level 80. What is this thing? How do I work? Where's my giant robot now? I have this little turret thing. What is this? Get this out of here.
So weird.
Sometimes, some days, I'm excited to get Tamtera and hit 2 buttons. I'm like,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie,
yeah, I feel brain dead right now. Let me hit 2 buttons. That took 10 minutes. I'm done. Sweet nap time.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, like, it can be disorienting. I mean, I agree with that. I think it is kind of a weird. It has pros and cons, the solution, right? Because I remember when I was first time going through WoW, the most frustrating thing to me ever was the fact that it felt like 80% of the content as a new player just was completely irrelevant. And I was like, why am I doing this? Nobody runs these dungeons. We have to wait for a queue for a million years. And when we go into them, it's a face roll. And then when you finally get to the mythic system and things, you're like, oh, okay, sure. So I can go through all this stuff and scale it. But how do I do that? I have to get a currency. I have to do a... And so it was always kind of a weird thing. So when I came into 14, I actually thought it was a huge relief that, hey, I could do other stuff and it would sink me down in any kind of way, right? So that I could run those dungeons and I could still enjoy all of the content that had been made in the game, and I could help new players. So I like that. But I do agree that there are times where you like switch between stuff and you're going, oh my God, it's this one. Okay, well, it's going to take us 5,000 years and I got 2 buttons to push. So buckle up, everybody. Here we go. It's not fun.
I just don't play certain jobs on certain level ranges of content. If I'm like, oh, it can be anything before 60, I'll just be like, I'll just stay something else instead of playing them because it's just so annoying sometimes.
Right. I mean, that's how I was when I was leveling my dancer up a little bit. I would often jump into the alliance raids because somehow it was always adventure and need DPS, and I'm like, I'll get those extra partner. I'll take those extra crystals, right? And if I get a 50, I'm just like, son of a, like, because I don't get to do my cool dancer stuff, and I'm like, it sucks. So maybe they're gonna do something with that. We'll see.
Bard, because you only get certain songs, and it's just like, what even is this? This isn't a rotation anymore.
Yep. Yeah, thankfully they've changed it, but it used to be that when you'd get any of the Crystal Tower raids on Astrologian, you didn't have an AoE ability.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
that was like that one thing. Just anytime I would queue into Crystal Tower, I'd sit there and I'm like, well, great. Love seeing everybody. Holy spam over there. Have fun. Great. I will continue to hit my one button. And maybe damage one guy.
I was specifically like, I used to for my healer, I was an Astro, and I would specifically go White Mage for Alliance raids because screw not having that AoE.
Yep.
It's bad.
Yeah, I don't know if they mean like the dungeon itself, like because people were like, "Hey, just split up the longer MSQ dungeons into 2," or they mean dungeons as far as like repeatable. I don't know. It's an interesting answer.
It could easily be taken either way. So
yeah,
we'll just have to see. Who knows?
The next question. This is one you guys have known has been irking me a little bit. Canon when it comes to choices. For players, being given dialogue options for how they react to certain quests has become a fun way to add personality to the Warrior of Light and Warrior of Darkness. However, with Eureka, and now with Qitari Beast Tribe quests, we're given not just dialogue choices, but a choice that impacts the story itself. How do you and the team decide when having a choice like this is okay? We feel a bit bad for the team working on things like the Encyclopedia Eorzea. How is the canonical choice determined? Is there one? So Yoshida says these kinds of options are mostly proposed by members of either the scenario team or the world lore team. None of them were ideas that I specifically asked the team to implement. He's like,
not my
this,
fault.
not me.
Yoshida sounds like, don't feel bad like I'm making them do this. They come
pump the
to
brakes.
me with
Pump
this.
the brakes. Yeah. I'm more of the mind to instruct the development team to be careful of options which don't lead to irreversible outcomes, as that could pose different risks. I also give instructions to always avoid making options in which only one of them is canonical.
Yeah.
The true Qitari tribe's history is, however, the player interprets it. It is unknown which option is canonical or whether both are actually false. To be honest, the development team hasn't decided what the official history is.
Yep.
So there we go. That answers that.
I love it. I love it. I think that's so fun. I mean, it is. I mean, we talked about this when we went over the Qitari Beast tribes, right? We had a really good discussion about it. And I still do think that it is fun to sometimes, for the sake of a message or a theme, you don't always have to be completely constrained by those like really technical, we are locking into stone certain things, right? And the idea that the Qitari Beast tribe plays around with this idea that history in so many ways is mutable by our, like, through our own perceptions of it. And, you know, it can change over time as we discover new things, or as we sort of, you know, choose different hypotheses. I mean, the whole, like, when you think about dinosaurs and the whole discussion about whether they're scaled or feathered or big or small or where their eyes are, like, there is always this process in the world. So I think it's kind of fun that the Qitari Beast tribe is a spot where they decided to go, you know what? Let's just do a little commentary on history. Like,
it's interesting.
Right, I'm in that boat. I'm in that league of people who are like, it's just being interpreted. Yeah. It's fine. We don't have to know the canon.
It's interesting to me that the dinosaur go-to is the feathers or scales. My biggest dinosaur question is, how did that one big dinosaur live on that tiny little floating island in Diadem all his life?
I don't know.
We'll never
flying
know.
Fish.
What did he eat? Yeah, like how did?
It's gotta be flying fish.
Flying fish.
Yeah, these are the questions that we need to. I think we actually did ask.
I did
Koji
not
that.
have an answer for that. I'm impressed that you pulled something that was actually workable, like out of the air, as it were.
I get it.
Speaking of fish, with the recent patch, you added ocean fishing.
Segue.
Right? It's a very different kind of content than you've released previously. Is there any type of larger, more casual content that you are considering? Yes.
Yes.
The personalities of modern day gamers are quite diverse, and nowadays the way that people choose to spend their time differs from person to person depending on their personality, so it's important to have content that's readily accessible, and we plan to actively implement more of this content in the future. That said, I won't be spilling the beans about what this content is coming up next. So we're getting something.
Something.
Segue.
I was gonna say, I asked about. Oh wait, that is the next question.
That's awesome though, and honestly, obviously nobody saw everything happening with COVID, right? And obviously we started out talking about the announcement, about the delay and things like that. But when there is this discussion about like where development resources should be put in MMOs, right? Because everybody has their own opinion based off of what they are looking for from an MMO.
Yes.
And one of the things I've always loved and I value so much about 14 is that they are about creating just a huge bulk of different types of content for players to enjoy. And man, what a perfect time right now for them to have introduced all of this new, like, casual, in quotation marks, content, you know? Ocean fishing and Diadem and the Craft and Gathering and the Ishgard stuff and all these different things that, like, now when I log in, even though we know we're not going to be getting our next patch for maybe even up to another month afterwards, I'm like, that's cool. I still have a whole bunch of gatherers I need to level. I've got, you know, the Amaru mount I need to get. I have all these different things. We're working on our current tier. You know, it's nice to have a lot of stuff that you can do and to not feel like, you know, I mean, your entire make or break of the game is just waiting for the next patch that you want X thing out of, you know?
Yeah. So, Blitzball. We asked on a similar note to the last question. It's been a while since we've heard you say anything about Blitzball. Last time we heard it, I don't know if it had come up in an interview at all, but we did hear about this first at the Frankfurt Fan Fest.
Yeah.
And the thing there was they couldn't decide how they wanted to make it. And so it's pretty much the same thing. Yoshida-san says that, I've mentioned this previously, but we don't have a definitive answer yet. The conflict still exists of whether to create Blitzball content in line with an MMORPG or to make it something closer to the original. That said, I don't think the latter will work well, which is a big reason as to why we haven't started any kind of implementation. If we just force ourselves to push out content, we're bound to get feedback saying this isn't Blitzball at all. So they haven't even really, they're still in the, like, back and forth, probably, you know, every few months, someone's like, does anybody else have any ideas? No. All right, let's go and implement ocean fishing.
Like they're learning from maybe Blue Mage with this. This isn't Blue Mage at all. Just echoes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Somewhere in that building, there is a whiteboard, like one of those ones you can roll around that just has Blitzball on it. And they have stuff that they have written, and then they just leave it there. And every once in a while, someone goes back to it and goes, well, what if this... They talk about it for an hour and they go, no, that doesn't work, and they just keep coming back.
And one of these days, right? There's gonna be that Goodwill Hunting moment, right, where somebody is just finishes the equation on the board and everyone goes, whoa,
yeah,
and that,
yeah,
it will happen.
I mean, Blitzball is so iconic, and like obviously, I think a lot of the Blitzball tournaments and things in 10 are very memorable.
Oh yeah,
but it's funny because I don't think. And again, let us know if you feel differently. But as far as I've ever heard, or my own opinion, nobody really necessarily remembers their first goes at Blitzball super fondly because it kind of sucks. Like when you're trying to play through it those first few times in 10, and you're like, what? And you're just sitting there like, how did I lose the entire tournament? And like the game keeps going and you're just enraged. So you go back and you're like trying to just figure out the secret of Blitzball, and
then you realize that you forgot to get the Jack shot, and so you find a save from 10 hours prior and go back.
I hear like Charles and Fusion talk about how much they liked Blitzball. I'm like, I played that first game and was like, I don't understand this. It was not fun. I did not play another game.
Have I said that I loved Blitzball?
You always talk about it fondly.
I think it would be cool to see it implemented. It wasn't like the greatest system ever. Like,
I thought you really wanted this.
See?
Well,
you always bring it up like, oh yeah, Blitzball.
To clarify, I like the idea of, and this is coming from the few months where I played Old Republic for a little while. I love the idea of having very different types of PvP. The PvP we have now, yes, there's variants, but it's still like samey, right? It's like kill other people and objective, right? Whereas this is just straight up like it's a game, right? And so like back when I was playing Old Republic right around launch, one of the things that they did was they had any kind of PvP regardless of the type. It was just in this kind of roulette, and one of the things they had was Huttball. And the idea of having that, I think, is appealing to me. The idea of taking this, right, because right now there are some people in the game right now that are very like into PvP, and that's great. I'm not one of them, and the way that the PvP roulette is kind of set up isn't really that great. in my opinion. And so if they can give us a few different types of PvP, just throw everything into the roulette, not just say, okay, like during this patch, this is what's going to be in the PvP roulette, right? Just give us everything, just throw it all in there, roll the dice, see what you get. I think that would be fun, and I think that would incentivize people to do more PvP content overall. I think
that's dangerous because they'll have to put Verminion in.
Do they though? I don't think they have to. Is the thing, unless they completely reworked that.
Is joke.
Yes. Zen, I'm gonna take
that was
this
not a
serious
good.
That
was a terrible joke. Jokes are funny. Right. That was just, I don't know what that was.
Fusion, you're right
hates
though.
my jokes, man.
Fusion, you're not right about hating Zen's jokes, but you are right about Blitzball. Blitzball is a gold mine. I mean, it is. If they could actually pull it off, right? I mean, when you think about it, it is naturally something that the Final Fantasy fandom is hyped about, that could have a really fun competitive twist. Like, what if they put in a Blitzball stadium and like the winning teams or something had like their, you know, you could see them on the screen for the season, or you could go and cheer for a team of your choice, or you could like, it could be a gold mine. And I do think that making it a new PvP system would be so fun. And I hope that if and when they do actually get into that, they go that route versus it being like a standalone single player sim, kind of like the Mask Carnival with, you know, like challenges that you undertake by yourself in some kind of tier, right? Because there is this, I mean, it is a sporting event. So having something that would be somewhere between like Quidditch and, Rocket League? Like Rocket League?
There you go.
Like, you know, it would be more of a, I mean, Rocket League's a little bit chaotic, so maybe a little more structured than that, but it could actually be like a mode that people could play, and it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be like a combat PvP. I think would be a blast, and they would be able to milk that for all they wanted as far as like, you know, satisfying the PvP base would go.
Making it work with this game and its connection issues, and how like trying to make a multiplayer blitzball would be like Rocket League, and they don't want any parts of that. They don't want, like, think about now, I was out of that AoE.
But I mean, you also have to remember too, I mean, this is the same dev team that implemented Cheap Dungeon and Egg Hunter Riggy, and I mean they like to do
figure it out,
crazy stuff. If anybody could figure out, it's these guys. And I think, like, you know, from a lore standpoint, like, and I had said this back when Stormblood was coming out, right? Because this was a Stormblood fan fest where they first talked about Blitzball. I'm like, dude, like, swimming expansion, absolutely. Throw a Blitzball arena down in Thavnir and like done, like, right? I think they could still totally do that. It's just a matter of them figuring out how the hell it's gonna work, which is something that they're having issues with.
No, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but Thavnir was mentioned directly in the relic quest, and I was like, okay, maybe next
that area is a little reminiscent of a couple different places in Final Fantasy, including Bisay.
See, I was thinking it reminded me, and I for the love of me, I cannot remember the name of it. Thank you. I like how you just knew.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that little island, because of all the overhanging caves.
Yes!
Looked it up. Yes! I had to look it up. But
I couldn't. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't. Oh, thank you. That is a burden lifted off of my mind. I just, like...
This is why you deal with my bad jokes, because Purgatorio.
Before we leave Blitzball, I wish I had a camera too, so I could look at camera 2 and talk to Square Enix real quick. But I'll do it. So you have a game, and someone from our side is going to be ecstatic that I said Brave Exvius, but Brave Exvius, where you collect a bunch of characters and then you use them just kind of like you did in Blitz. Make a gacha game on mobile with Final Fantasy 14 characters, put that sim into the game. You have mobile game and it's in the game. Like, you print money, but it wouldn't be Blitzball.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and also the cold face of reality, and remind you that we never had that with Triple Triad like they said they were gonna do.
I know, and I don't know why, because that would have printed money too. I don't know why.
Also, Brave Exvius is terrible. Their microtransactions are the worst of any SE mobile title, and it's very off-putting. That being said, you have a few days left to get your Y'shtola and Thancred units in War of the Visions if you're playing that. Great games, terrible microtransaction
Oh yes.
market.
But hey,
Oh
you
my
want
gosh.
money. That's the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, was not expecting to go into a little Brave Exvius rant there.
I wanted to see what would happen.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, great guys, great dev team. We've interviewed them a few times. We had a couple of questions also here for Mogi-san. What is your favorite memory during the development of Shadowbringers? He says, it would be when I was asked to create design ideas for a plus-sized Mikote, even though I had no knowledge of the main scenario overview. Creating a character with a unique and distinctive body shape was a very fun experience. And we talked about this a little bit during the talking about monster design. Well, we talked about this with monster design, right? The idea of, oh, I thought it was a mount. Like, they really have no idea what this stuff is going to be used for when they get the order in.
We'll just stick it upright.
It's fine. What were some of the unique challenges that Shadowbringers presented to you? He says, one of the things that we faced was how to express this different world as opposed to the world that players were already familiar with. How would I depict a sky without night, and one so bright that it appears to have a halation effect? How should I represent primals that previously appeared in the source, but also exist in this different world with their own unique appearances? The world setting and premise were very important, so I hope that this resonated with the players as a world that the development team was particularly very particular about in the details. And a lot of this, again, if you guys haven't seen it yet, go check out the Shadowbringers kind of like documentary, the 6 videos that they put out. They're really, really cool to get a kind of behind the scenes look on a lot of this stuff. Each area in the game has its own unique identity or theme, the landscapes, the music, and even the gear that come from it. What's been your favorite sort of aesthetic to work on, and is there any you wish that you could do that you haven't done yet? Mogi-san says, I've mentioned this in a live stream previously, but it would be the first Bard artifact armor in 14. I believe it's a design that embodies Mr. Amano's design depictions and concept very well, and I would love to revamp the design with our current graphics.
I love that.
Those were some wild. I remember that original Bard AF, the crazy pants, and I still remember freaking out about the weapon. I'm like, it's a bow, but it's a harp, but it's a bow.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. Like, who came up with that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of elements that I have worked on, my favorites would probably be the Dark Knight's Deathbringer. When it comes to weapons, and Kuch Lane for monsters, I think I'd love to try and design something uniquely un-Final Fantasy someday.
Yeah, that big X-tentacle man, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really fun to hear what the team likes to do, or, like what people on the team like to do as far as art goes, because there are definitely certain designs where I can see that, like the passion of whatever, or the person who was like, I'm gonna make this thing, even if it's a weird thing, and I'm gonna just go ham on it. Yeah. And it is funny because I don't always use a lot of this stuff. I mean, even the drops from like the Crystal Tower raid, some of the old subscription rewards. There are a handful of things in the game that are based off of like a lot of the previous designs or Amano-san's work. And obviously, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy, you probably know something about, the artists that
if you've ever seen a Final Fantasy logo.
Like, he's set so much of the precedent as to, like, the aesthetic of the world. But it's always really fun to see those. And even when we got things like, the final Omega fight with male, female, and, like, the gear sets that come from that, like, it's very different, and yet it still felt like something that was like a new design by Amano, and people were comparing a lot of the like images to, his own work and different things there. So I would love to see more of that kind of come into the game and be a little risky with certain designs of gear to kind of challenge players, because I think some of them are stylized but really beautiful.
It's really cool. Go ahead.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you can really tell sometimes when a design shine through as something that people really enjoyed, because especially in the case of Kukulane here, like the example they give, that's a crazy monster. It's like
Yeah.
a monster stacked on top of a monster, stacked on top of some tentacles that are just woobly woobly, and it's got like an interesting, weird, magical, veiny texture, and has that terrible mechanic where it raises up the tentacles and slaps everybody, and if you're not paying attention, so many people just die. And
I'm really looking forward to
wherever it turns and does the barfing. You can tell somebody enjoyed the hell out of working.
I'm looking forward to 6.x AF now, especially Bard. I'm curious if they're gonna have a chance to do this now. I mean, it's always really cool to take a look back right after you do, you hear these kind of things and see, oh, hey, they did get, like, we talked to Soken around Heavensward at PAX years ago, and we had asked a similar question, like, is there something that you haven't really done that you want to do? And he's like, bossa nova and jazz. What do we have in this expansion? Go to Amarat, right? Like, and just, like, that's cool. Like, to hear about things that they really want to do, and then seeing, what eventually, even if it is a couple expansions later, right, what comes from that.
The Bard
so
AF
really
definitely is one of the things I miss the most about playing Dancer versus Bard. The outfits. Yeah. Although, like, after that first one, I wasn't terribly, like, stuck on any of the rest of them, but that first one.
Yeah.
I got
just immediately. They got it right the first.
Yeah. I got the current tone body for my machinist, I guess my dancer, right? And I love it. It's not terribly complicated in any way, but I just really like it. Yeah.
Not for me. I do like the pants though. Yeah. The little, like, butt flap skirt on top of the thing. I will take that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm much happier with the gear in Shadowbringers than I was in Stormblood by far. But I think maybe that's just I wasn't crazy about the Eastern aesthetic. But
you need to get in there and get the Diable AF right now.
Yeah,
right now. We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
All I have is the shoes.
We'll talk about that in a minute. First, real quick, in our interview with Final Fantasy XI developers, we also asked, this was something that had come up a long time ago. We'd asked, there's been a lot of nostalgia for Final Fantasy XI popping up online recently. Many players playing Final Fantasy XIV have expressed interest in returning to Vana'diel or trying the game for the first time, but are turned off by paying for a full subscription for both titles. Has there been any talk about a combined or discounted subscription? This was done back in 2012, but only for a brief period of time. And Matsui-san says, I appreciate you bringing this up, and I'll share it with the 14 management team. Our underlying payment system has changed quite a bit since 2012, so it's possible that there might be some technical hurdles to overcome. So maybe
that sounds like no plans, but thanks for the thing. I'm gonna take this demand and put it on the plate and hand it to 14 and be like, look, somebody wants it. Come on,
we could potentially make more money.
Yeah,
that would be so good, though. I mean, like. Yeah. Especially now that we know, like, in retrospect, right? Obviously, a lot of this in these interviews were supposed to be done at PAX. And during PAX, we found out afterwards that there were probably going to be some announcements and discussions and following that about the new campaign coming for Final Fantasy XI as part of the anniversary stuff. So this seems like a perfect time to say, like, hey, if we are expending the resources to do like an anniversary, like a new thing for 11, why not like get the player base in 14 to like boogie over and share it?
And and I think even more so on that same point. I mean, it's no secret that Yoshida realizes that people will sub for a patch and then go away for a little bit. Pay a couple extra bucks, get into 11. 11 has monthly patches, so. Stay within the Square Enix ecosystem, right? And have a shared sub.
Yeah, for me, like that whole 11 interview is awesome, and like if you have any interest, you definitely should read it. I would have said that even if I wasn't on this podcast. But with the 7 remake coming out, it made me realize that some Final Fantasy games are just going to disappear. Like, where's 11 going to go when those servers go down? They'll never be able to experience it again. Like, keeping it alive by piggybacking it onto 14, like, even if right now it's healthy enough to be okay, like, that just makes sense to me. Like, what's going to happen in the future to 14? Like, coming back to 7 has made me realize that going back to 11 is something that people would really like to do. Like, even if they don't know that they want to right now, because yeah, it kind of sucked for a while, but that story is so good, and just giving them the ability to do so.
You don't know you want to do it, but you do.
It's the opposite of Blizzard. You think you want this, but you don't. But it's the opposite. No, we really did.
Speaking of that, we also asked them about Classic 11 servers. We asked them about mobile. We got nothing for mobile. Just a heads up. Spoilers. But go check it out. It really was a really cool interview. So make sure to check both of those out. Gamerscape.com. They are both up there. So now we are going to get into our hands-on impressions for patch 5.25, starting with the Relic. I absolutely love the new area. We talked about this a little bit earlier. The new area, I think, is really cool. It gives you some vibes of other Final Fantasy things, just a little bit. The music is really great.
Go.
Yeah, the music is really good. What did you guys think of this new area, of Gongos?
He's good.
Porcanorgo was my favorite area in 11, which is why I looked it up and knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So having that little visual reminder, just seeing the picture in the patch notes made me go, ooh, even before I got in the game, right?
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the music is wonderful, like everybody has said. I really like the dude, the like main dude with like coral mustache. I've heard some people really hate his design, but I think it's rad.
Oh yeah.
I really like the idea of his coral mustache, because I was like, oh, that's so neat. Like, I really like that. I think maybe it's the texture that's really off-putting to people, because it kind of looks like it's like Play-Doh'd onto his face.
It does. It absolutely does.
Sure.
But I don't know, just like his hair and his weird mustache and his just like swagger, and I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
And can we also say a new Femrugadin, who I am in love with, and hope that she gets.
Is that a Highlander or a Rogadin? That's a Rogadin.
She is
hot
beautiful.
Lady Rogadin.
And I hope that hot Lady Rogadin gets more time on the screen, because she's amazing. I mean, I'm honestly excited. I'm really excited by even just the new hub. Like, it's funny to me, because when I first went in there and the music started and then we see all the stuff, and then, I mean, whether or not you're feeling a little bit of the like 12 vibes, because, you know, we've got kind of like a sort of region there with like Evilise and, you know, all the other stuff, and then the Hrothgar, and, you know, like you get a little bit of that, or you're getting more vibes from 11, or you're getting more vibes, like whatever it is, right? And then we get the whole Garlean influence. I think it feels different, and it, like, I'm excited to see what the rest of that zone is going to look like off of all of it. I mean, I'm really pumped, and I feel like overall I had different expectations from this than it seems like a lot of people did. I can't remember, and maybe you can all tell me, was it a live letter or it was the patches themselves or something? There was definitely a place where they said that this first step, I think it was a live letter, that this first step was just going to be a short quest. But it seemed to catch a lot of people off guard, and people were like really upset about it. Whereas I was going, this is exactly what I expected.
Yeah. It's the intro.
I think what happened is, I think people maybe just didn't catch that, right? They expected it to be the same kind of style as Eureka. And I think right now as well, just with everything that's going on, I think people were really hoping on something to grind for a little longer. So you mean for the Relic, it's super short. You do this little instance solo quest, and that's it. You get the weapon. If you want more, you just throw poetics at it, and that's it. You don't have to quest anything. You don't have to do trials. You just throw poetics at it, which is great.
A long solo quest.
It's a longer solo quest. It's
a
really
little bit longer than the Asturian one.
It's interesting to a point.
I loved
it. Really interesting. Yeah,
I adored the quest. Yeah, I thought it was super cool.
Initially, I kind of had they're stretching things a little, but as they filled it in, I was like, you know what? I'm all right with this. I'm on board. Let's do this.
Yeah, so I think for me, like, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've always been really curious about more Bozja stuff. What we ended up getting, though, was kind of like nothing super shocking to me. Like, oh, these things were happening. People were tempered. Yeah, no shit. Like, you know, like, okay, that's not surprising to me.
The look of the zone, though, like, not Purganoro.
Yeah, the actual
trial
Citadel
zone.
area. Yeah.
Like looking around and being like, "Ooh, MC Escher." Very
Yeah.
cool.
Very
Loved it.
trippy. Yeah, that was really
Got a
cool.
great design.
The trial. So
Uh-huh.
coming into this, right, I was like, all right, we're gonna be doing Boja. It's, Gabranth is in charge of the region. We're gonna fight Gabranth. I did not anticipate fighting a dead man.
You got the wrong Garlean.
I don't. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that I was happy that I was right, but I was really happy when I was right. I'm like, I don't think it's Cabranth, and I think we're gonna get tokens for Diable AF. Kind of bullshitting, and then there it is.
Let me just say, as a casual player that does not have a raid group and has some anxiety about doing EX primals in Party Finder, I hate this a lot. And it's really disappointing to see, and I don't know why they decided to do it this way.
It is tough.
Go ahead. Yeah, the initial learning, I feel, it's a little bit difficult, but once you think of each phase as like a combo,
sure,
I found it very, very easy.
Yeah, and it's like positioning with pugs is just, because you have to be at the right place.
Yes.
And that's my place, not your place. No, my place, the last pug. Yeah. So.
And that's what's in your head.
Yeah.
So I think exactly what Fusion said. With a static, it's like done.
Yeah,
but
it's easy.
For some people, I mean, and me included in this, right? For Eureka, yes, it was a grind. Yes, it lasted a little longer than maybe it should have for some of this stuff. But when you're in a zone with so many people, it's just whatever, right? You just go in, you make bear puns, and you get it done eventually. With an EX thing, there's some people that just don't do EX. They're not comfortable with it. They don't think they have the skill set for it, or they don't have the group to do it. And I think locking this stuff behind that, when traditionally it's been more accessible to more casual play styles, I think that's a huge mistake.
My hope is, because they did talk a little bit about the idea of having multiple ways to approach this ultimately, right? That if you want to do this trial, you can do the trial. And I mean, we don't even know, is this currency or the things going to eventually allow you to shorten other parts of the relic weapon or other things? We're not totally sure, because they had mentioned you can go and do a grind, or you can do, this sort of difficult content to help you with this. So my real hope is that eventually they will just go ahead and there will be some, you can get this gear doing the other stuff. Because I personally, I don't mind, again, because I have a static and I have a group of people that I can go in and do this with. But the difference being that if you are somebody who primarily wants that gear for the aesthetic, for the look, for the feel, the knowledge that you have obtained this thing that is a relic of your class, right? Having your obtaining of it be at the mercy of other people is frustrating and stressful and hard, especially when you have limited hours and you're going in, and Party Finder can be terrible. It can be great, but it can be terrible. Sure. Yeah. So I absolutely sympathize. Even I, the first day went in with a few Party Finders, and I was like, oh boy, I remember why Party Finder stinks.
The other thing about this gear, though, is right now, especially for people who aren't raiding, it's actually very good gear.
Yes. Yeah.
So right now, having this gear behind a trial makes sense, because it's legitimately a decent upgrade for some people.
So and that's another thing I wanted to touch on too, especially the word upgrade, right? Because traditionally we take our AF and we upgrade it. That's not exactly how this works this time. It's a completely new piece. And so I'm wondering why, we have this EX trial with the tokens, and then you use that to get the new AF, which is Diable. Why not have a normal version of it that lets you just get a dyed upgraded version of your current one for Glamour?
That would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Put it on the forums.
I mean, I bet that they put out the trial and it's in the trial, and then when the zone comes out, it'll just be from tokens from the zone or whatever. But yeah, it will put you behind a patch that is delayed now too. So that's
but if you just want it for the aesthetic, I think waiting a little bit longer, it sucks, but
sure. If they make it more,
if you're having problems with the
if they make it more accessible, I think that's fine. The other interesting question is, how are we getting this stuff from the NPC at Revenant's Toll? We got our original AF on the first.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. Like,
no, I mean, we talked about that, right? Like I had feelings about that when we were discussing some of the stuff with them announcing initially for the patch that we were going to be vendoring back at Revenant's Toll again. And at the time we thought that like, oh yeah, well probably it's because, we're back technically lore wise on the first and or on the source, and it's going to be the kind of thing where like we have this new hub and we're dealing with the Garleans and stuff, right? But it is confusing, and I think it's one of those things where I wish they had stuck with the formula instead of, I don't know, trying to logic it, because like even my husband who just came back to the game, he was like, why is this telling me that I'm supposed to go to Revenant's Toll to get something? He's like, I don't understand. What? Why am I going there? Did I miss a quest or something?
There needs to be a one line from like Rowena, right? I mean, and I want to say too, the cutscenes and stuff with Rowena and Geralt were just amazing. Like, I don't know when we're getting Hildebrand, but for now we have Geralt, and I'm happy with that. I think Rowena should have just like come up to us and be like, hey, so I've seen some of you adventurers walking around with some new gear. That's cool. But we're gonna make some better stuff, and you can die.
We're gonna mass produce that,
right? And that's why we have it, because Rowena just saw all these people walking around in the stuff from the first. She's like, oh, we can make that. We can make it better. We can make it dieable.
Fashion forward, like she's always changing.
Yep.
So
maybe she just that's all they just one little dialogue bubble. That's all they needed.
I think it just comes from the fact that you go to Revenant's Toll, use your poetics to get the relic. Poetics, by the way, who was surprised by that?
I was
very surprised and also very happy. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm so I'm not gonna lie, I am so happy that the first step of this relic quest, and people will have different feelings on this, right? But I am so happy that it was this cool quest that was super lore relevant, that I'm really interested in. I really want to follow the whole thing through and see what happened, because I love the lore and history of the world. I thought the quest was fun. And I loved the feeling of just being like, give me my weapon, please. Because we know that down the road, it will be obviously a grind. Yeah. Obviously, to get the really cool ones, you're gonna have to struggle through that. But I feel like this is such a good way to just get people into the relic. Just get them in there, give them a weapon so that they have something that's on par, get them, and it's nice to know that if I want to get some of those weapons for some of my alt classes now and not have to grind a million other things, I can start and just grab them and give some poetics to them. Yeah. And then I've got
around for a while, or you help people very often, you are capped on poetics. You right off the bat, you get three relics done.
Yes.
I think that it reminds me of which one was the relic with light? Was it the original or the second?
Heavensward.
Heavensward.
Second.
It was Heavensward.
Second. Yeah.
Remember how you had to have it equipped? I think that this is so easy because you're gonna have it equipped. You're gonna need to have it to then do the stuff with it, because that step was super easy too, if I remember correctly. It was annoying because I think the first one was the one with the anima, right? Or was that the original?
Yes.
Anima was Heavenward, yeah.
Anima's Heavensward, yeah.
Yeah.
Super easy, a stupid grind, but anyone could do that.
Yeah.
Right? So they just
and that's what relic content has always been.
Yeah. People will just grind it out in a day and be like,
first
all right,
that
was a terrible 4 to 6 hours of my life, but I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
for the first step.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Go ahead. Go. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting, too. We're talking about the lore, about how we're getting this stuff, from the first on the source. But then you also have to consider what this EX trial is. It's a reimagining of the story that wasn't correct in Sid's head.
Yeah.
What? What a weird people are like, oh, well, people wanted to fight a Garlean because we haven't fought a Garlean. And I'm thinking 2.0 we fought Gaius, 3.0 we fought Hydrus, 4.0 we fought... that's not a thing we've been lacking. So, why?
It makes sense, too, though, because that's something that he personally locked away because it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel
it's weird.
I have multiple feelings on all of that trial. Because on one hand, I think you can rationalize it for sure. I think probably they were like, oh, hey, it was kind of a missed opportunity that we didn't actually fight him and now he's, gone. So, like, let's do something where we actually do because he's iconic. But then I think on the other hand, the idea of the Empire as a symbol is something that, like, the emperors have always, embodied, right? And we see the transition from the emperor we know was Emmett Selk into his lineage, into his reign, which is the reign that Sid suffered under, right? So the idea that he is like hiding what actually happened to some degree, especially because he's had memory loss. I mean, the whole game starts off with us recovering some of his memories. Like,
that's true.
The idea that he's hiding what actually happened underneath the iconic weight of the Empire and what the Empire did to his life and the people that he now feels guilt for. Like, I don't think that's too far-fetched.
It's very symbolic.
I do, though, however, feel that, like, I don't know, the trial is kind of like a mixed bag. Because
Superman.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like some of it, and I think that mechanics are kind of interesting in some parts, but it somehow manages to be just a little bit more notable than, like, the chimeras of the original Relic quests, but also somehow forgettable in a way that feels like kind of strange for a character that should be a massive fight.
I think the problem with it is, right, we come into this idea of this Boja content, we're like, lore, this is gonna be great, and then they have this whole trial that's based off something that didn't actually happen, and that feels weird, right? They're like, yeah, this is what he remembered, but it's not real.
Raid. We reimagined a bunch of stuff there.
I mean, every EX is
at this point
reimagining. I guess that's true.
Yeah,
because every extreme is just.
But it's based off a thing that also didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just further making it more ridiculous as they do.
Well, it is a thing that happened.
Yeah,
it's just not the person that happened.
I mean, you get what I mean, though. Like, it's weird.
It is not a physical.
Forwarding.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not a physical fight in the world that forwards the events of what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is more introspective in that sense, which also then makes it feel kind of more weirdly negligible in some way. Like,
it's a weird, awkward storytelling mechanic, is all it was.
I want to know,
they turned it into a fight.
Where the heck they found this crystal thing?
Yeah,
and how they knew what the heck it did?
Because Makoto's awesome. I don't.
Yeah. See, that's why I was confused. Because, full disclosure, like, I never did the lighthouse, okay? So I never did that, because I wasn't playing 14 for, like, a little bit during that. Work was just too crazy. So I went to Kugane, and I went to do the quest, and I was like, why is Ramza here? Huh, there's an aura site. Huh, Makoto. Yeah, I remember her. I was just talking about this stone. Wait a second. So it's is that the stone that you're talking about?
No,
I went in and there's a stone and they're talking about memories in it.
It's not that aura site. No.
But for a bit I was like, okay, cool. It starts weird, but all right.
I will say, and we've talked about this a little bit, I just love how they're just weaving everything together with Shadowbringers story stuff. Even this side content. They're like, hey, remember Evilise? Let's bring in some characters from that, because Gabranth is here. Bosch von Gabranth was Noah von Gabranth's dad. That's some little tidbits you get from talking to the NPCs. There's a lot of little cool things in there.
And the aura site.
Go ahead.
I would say the aura site. Like, we've had this discussion of aura site over since the end of Stormblood into now. I mean, the most recent stuff talking about even Amarat and its use of what it would be an equivalent to store these perfect ideals, or now, I mean, going into the Evilise raids, which is all about kind of uncovering aura site and the memories and these, like, you know, people or spirits that have been locked into things. And now we're talking about, like, a new use of aura site. I mean, going all the way back to, I mean, the initial stuff with the Ascians, where we were talking about possibly destroying them with it. So it's nice to see, like, all these threads and these, like, side characters come back in again. But I am curious about, like, what the rest of this plotline is. I mean, we have to go out and try to presumably retake the zone. And Fusion, I don't think you're wrong about Gabranth being a final fight, because it seems like it.
Oh, totally. Right? We're totally gonna fight him. There's also if you go into the one of the characters in Gangos has a couple of them actually have multiple things you can ask them about, which is, like, great for lore. We might actually do. I don't know how much we'll be able to, how much of an hour we can fill on it, but I do want to talk about it. But Gabranth has, like, a number 2 as well that they name. that's in control of stuff. We know that there's a castrum that was rebuilt where the Citadel was, so we're going there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be really cool. I think this is going to be that kind of sticking it to the Empire content that we wanted in Stormblood, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Two things. Gonna keep them spoiler vague.
Yes.
I enjoy that we finally see what the heck that little tidbit with the Scions was.
Oh yeah, because we were like, where
they show up again?
Oh yeah. In the trailer, from the trailer.
Yes.
It's like, all right, that explains that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Not what anyone was thinking. Makes sense. Let's move on.
As I was getting into that part of the thing, I was just like, okay, that's not what we thought.
Yeah,
it
not
was.
at all what we thought. And then there's the part where you meet up with Mikoto again, and you basically have the option to tell her, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Right.
Poor girl.
Yeah.
But that cracked me up. So. I quite enjoyed that part.
So also with this patch, we have the addition of Skysteel tools. So if you are a gatherer, if you are a crafter, you can now start working on your own relic as well. Have you guys jumped into any of this yet?
No.
No, I know a lot of people who have, but I've been just doing other stuff, honestly.
It's not hard.
Yeah, I was about to say from
that's good.
our Omnicrafter friends, they're like, yeah, it's pretty easy.
After being disappointed with the way they handled the Diable AF, I kind of just like hate gathered on my miner. I don't need the tool, but I might as well because it's not like I can do anything else now with this patch. I already got 3 relic weapons in like 5 minutes of each other.
I mean, I guess that's a good focus for hate.
Yeah.
I wanted to grind something with this patch. I can't grind Diable AF because that's not really content that I do. So I went out and I hate mined. And so it wasn't really hard. It's just you need a few hundred of whatever. Some of them are HQ, some of them are things that only appear. They're hidden nodes, so they appear on some of the nodes. It's just gathering for hours.
I upgraded my sub recently. This is relevant, I promise. Because I want that cute new housing skin. Holy crap, is it cute, right? Getting stuff, titanium and Aetheryte ore off. I think it's Aetheryte ore off of the hidden nodes. Awful, terrible, bad. I hate hidden nodes. I don't want them ever again. Why are they here?
Yeah. Crafter, it's a similar thing where you just have to craft a bunch of a certain type of item. I haven't really delved into that as much, but I got the miner one done over like 2 days. It took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours of gathering, I think, total after I upgraded my gear because I realized that I wanted to make that HQ proc rate a little higher to not spend a whole week there. But you end up, I mean, what I ended up getting for my miner, it was just like a little bit better than the current crafted stuff. So it's definitely worth going out for. And of course, a lot of people, right, if they have one gatherer, they probably have the other 2 gatherers. If they have one crafter, they have all the other crafters, right? So I mean, it's definitely something that'll take up some time to grind. But I with this patch, I really was surprised how quick this stuff went, and I think that's not really the fault of anybody in particular, right? I think it's that was the design of it when they were coming out. They said, okay, we'll make the first step easy, and then with the next patch we'll have the zone, and that's where we'll start the grind and stuff. But just with the way things are right now, I think people really were hoping for that grind now versus later, and it's going to be probably delayed a little bit at coming out now. So it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, but there's still so much to explore in the game.
Yes.
Which is great. But I mean, it is kind of unfortunate because I think they were smart about how they paced the patches, honestly. Because I mean, we've got a lot of content that was like a good time sink leading up to this. And then like if we were looking at COVID stuff aside, right, to have like this patch be a little bit shorter to let you keep working on the stuff that you were working on, get you into the new plot line, get you into some new stuff. And then in June, like, here's a huge hunk of things that you can do again. It's not a bad idea. It is just unfortunate because you're right. Like with the way that things panned out, everything has dovetailed well. But I mean, like, right now, most people would love a grind because they're stuck at home, because they want something to work towards. If they don't have the hours or they didn't have the hours to do Eureka, they might actually have the time to do it right now. So it is kind of tough for people that I think were looking for that. But I think that Yoshida-san in his letter was, I mean, very smart. Like, there are still so many things that people can do in the game and take a look at, you know, even if you get into some of the more creative stuff with like RP or, you know, decorating or whatever you want to do, you can do it right now. We're just going to have to wait and see when that...
Go RP with your fellowships about how you like to watch Eorzean TV dramas.
Yes.
Goodness.
There you go.
Goodness.
You got it.
I really love they just started filming in Kugane The Odd Couple with Tataru and Hancock. It's a fantastic show. I don't know if have you guys seen this yet? Have you heard about this?
I watch it.
Right?
I'll watch it.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see Hancock looped back into the story.
I was like, oh, I remember him.
Yeah.
Remember him?
I feel like this new part made him seem more pleasant than I remembered.
Yeah, definitely.
They're like, I didn't know you were helpful to people in need. That's
yeah,
so
exactly.
weird.
I thought you were just for money, buddy.
He is, but also money.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So there we go. That's anything else with 5.25? Anything else you guys did, or
what is the best looking relic weapon?
Ooh.
Including the crafting.
Oh, I haven't seen the crafting
So
ones.
the crafting and
Just
gathering ones, they're very subtle.
Yeah.
They're like white, black, and silver. If there's, you know, wherever there's room on it, there's maybe like some kind of a dragon on it, because they're dragon sung is the
Like
the
put a
name
bird
of it.
on it. Put a dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the frying pan has a dragon on it, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
It's got a
with
dragon
Simon.
right
I
on
really
the.
like Gunbreaker.
Oh,
That Gunblade
so
is
beautiful.
solid.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them yet. I don't dislike the one. So I quested on Machinist, then I picked up Dragoon and Dancer right away. I mean, I don't dislike any of them.
I wasn't super impressed with Dancer, but it's pretty. But I wasn't like, ooh, I have to have that.
For me, I appreciate that it animates a little bit when you pull
I
it
like
out.
That's nice.
Red Mage. The sword's pretty nice. I still like my Diamond one better. I really like the focus because it reminds me of a magical girl something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Like
it's got a little egg, and then it's got some like wings with a little like fancy deal on the top, and
It's
it
got
either
some
looks
very
like, yeah, it either looks like a Sailor Moon like chalice, which pour the light magic out, clean the monsters up, or those like soul egg things from Madoka Magica, which is real dark.
Yeah.
I see in
Wow.
the chat Rehab mentioned that Warrior was not one that a lot of people loved. I don't even play Warrior. And I
people
know
didn't like that one.
people didn't like it. I actually
I like it.
I like it. But
I
I
like it.
also saw something where there's like a side-by-side comparison of Emmett Selk's
Yes.
outfit.
It's an
and
Emmett
the
Selk
axe.
axe. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it is actually, like, they have taken a lot of the details from his clothing and worked it into the axe. And I think that's what I was expecting, weirdly enough, from these weapons. Like, I wanted them to look distinctive to what we found iconic, I mean, initially at least going into Boja. So, like, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, hey, maybe they will have some of that kind of judge look or that, you know, sort of Garlean, you know, inlay and stuff. So with that in mind, and I'd like to preface this.
Yeah, sure.
Because I like the White Mage staff.
Yep.
But does it match literally any of the other weapons? No, like it's so weird to me. I'm seeing everybody with like their cool, you know, like, oh, it's got this metal inlay and all this stuff, and I was like, what do I get? And then I went, and he was like, a stick I found on the ground, and I was like, why? What? Why did you? But I saw a cutscene of you hammering your anvil. Was that just to trick me?
Yes.
Was it?
Yes,
And
it was.
It's like, I think it's a cool piece and it's got that druidic feel to it.
Yeah.
But I would have almost liked to have seen that given to me literally anywhere else in the game. And then have had something that felt in line with all of the other designs for the relic. And I mean, I like the Astrologian. I like that Warrior Axe because it had those details that I really was delighted by, where I went, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I almost wish that like each of the starter weapons had had some kind of inspiration like that.
Like a
where they
prayer
were
inspired.
Yes.
That'd be really
Yes,
Sure.
it would have
And-
been so cool.
You know, we'll have you know at least 20 different forms of these relic weapons. I'm sure going forward.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'll have.
cool. The Warrior Axe reminded me of the Mago Mago one.
Mm.
And
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, just like the way the two axe beards are, but like
Sure.
I liked the shape of the original Mogwai one, but I didn't like the Moogle on it, and I certainly didn't like the music notes on it.
Yeah.
So having a similar version of that without all of the whimsicalness was nice for me personally.
All right. Before we end this, I am a little curious because I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more in depth about this at some point here. Next week we are going to take a break. I think week after that we might come back and talk a little bit more about Bozja. But the way that they ended this quest, where Gabranth is talking about using their own things against them. We see this kind of title card with this kind of cave painting of what is the Queen of Blades.
Yeah,
I think it was called. What are your predictions? What do you think is gonna happen going forward with this stuff? Sydney's just like, I have no idea.
It's tough. My first thought is that they're summoning a primal.
Yes.
Like, because you always go to that. So
Yeah.
my thought was like, oh, they're summoning some kind of primal. Could that primal be based off of the
Queen
Queen?
of Blades, yeah.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
but another part of me kind of hopes that, like, because look, we already talked about this. How good would it be if at the very end of all of this, as we look ahead to the new X-Pack on the horizon, at the very end, final quest, kind of like Fran, we get a female Hrothgar who is the queen who shows up. And like whether or not like has been in prison, or I mean, who knows? Like
I would
Yeah.
prefer
or
that.
they've
Yeah.
like taken over her or something, and then maybe we get the opposite genders. Like that is based in literally nothing except for my own hopes and dreams. But
Well, no, I think you're, despite hopes and dreams, I think that's a completely plausible idea of what could happen. We've already seen some tempering put vaguely for people who were in that area.
Yep.
So maybe whoever did the tempering, she said vaguely, sent the Queen of Blades away.
it would be cool. I think it would be it'd be more interesting to me than just like,
Here's a primal.
it's a primal.
So and I
Gilgamesh
think
is actually a lady Queen of Blades.
right.
Oh,
We got to be.
jeez.
It's weird because I could see them weaving in Hildebrand with this stuff, but it's also not on the first. So
No, not in the first.
Yeah.
Oops. I do appreciate though there was, if you guys have done the Hatchy Tide event, there's a scene with Godbert where he mixes casual and I'm like, I wonder where my son is. I haven't heard from him in a while. But I am totally thinking that the Queen of Blades is going to be the Primal Asura.
Yeah.
It looks
I think
like
that's what I'm putting my money down on.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. And it's, I think it could be really cool, especially when you think about the idea of the relic weapons and just the area and the region. I think there's like some really cool stuff that they could do with that.
You mentioning Godbert made me think of going back to the new area with the relic weapons. Geralt being like, that son of a bitch, that half-dressed son of a... Oh, I don't have a shit.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I said, right? We don't have Hildebrand right now, but we have Geralt, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
They
Yes.
really,
He's okay.
every time they bring him, they are very aware of the monotonous relic grind, and they just it plays so well into everything when they use that. But
My love for that character has increased tenfold.
Yes.
yeah, they really like it. It doesn't seem like a lot, but they always give you just a little bit more of like backstory and like right. It's really interesting to me. Anyway, any final thoughts on 5.25 before we wrap this up? I'm getting a no.
I don't know where it's going exactly. I like the vagaries that we've come up with, and at the very least, the elements that we are going to get going forward. Queen of
Yes.
Blades, really excited about this person, primal thing, whoever they are. I love just about anything in Final Fantasy that happens to have been previously labeled Save the Queen. So
Yeah.
I'm ready.
There you
Yeah.
I'm
go.
ready.
If somehow we get Save the Queen, come on now.
Any kind of Save the Queen.
I'm gonna take one more gigantic leap, and I'm not proud of this
Do
leap
it.
because I hate
do
Blue
it.
Mage. Because I hate Blue Mage. You talked about the idea of this queen just kind of showing up. What if she has a whip?
Yes.
Yeah.
What if she's a beast tamer?
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, that could be.
I apologize in advance if this actually
It's
happens.
fine with me. Like I said, save the queen. I love Quistis.
Yeah.
I love Beatrix. I love those characters.
And she was a blue mage. Let's just hammer it on with the.
Yes, I love these characters. I want to see more similar things to them. Badass ladies, gimme. Do it.
Yes.
All right, that's going to be it. It's a quick reminder here. Final Fantasy VII Remake is now out. We have started a wiki for it. So if you are playing that game, make sure to check that out, add to it, or look up some items and stuff as we build that out. Next week, we will be taking a break. The week after that, we're still working on it. Maybe Boja lore, Boja talk. Until then, you can email us at aetheryte@gamerscape.com. Tweet at us at aetheryte.radio. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Discord at Gamerscape. Discord.gg/Gamerscape. We have an Aetheryte Radio channel where you can talk to us about the show. We have a Final Fantasy VII Remake spoilers chat if you are playing the game and want to talk about it without spoiling it for everybody else, like one of those people.
Yeah.
Stay off Twitter.
Stay off Twitter. Add your, set up your filters.
Yeah.
Until then, everybody, stay inside, stay safe, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.